the act of God's captive into Quell of the Captive's Diary. Into Quell of the Captive's Diary, episode 31. Season finale, written by Precious Chinwe Obialor-Ukazim. Alright, let's get straight into today's episode. So Chizaram and Onamdi with some other couples handled the marriage session. She spoke of marriage built on calling but starved of connection, of couples who prayed together but are apart in their heart, of men who were bold in ministry and timid in intimacy, and of men and women who served faithfully outside yet carried silent disappointment, starving their homes of affection. They spoke about intimacy with clarity and care, about how sex within marriage was never designed to be a battlefield, nor a reward withheld or demanded, but a place of mutual safety, healing, joy, and satisfaction. They addressed matters honestly, wounds from ignorance, pains carried from past experience, expectations that have never been voiced out, how silence had crippled affection, how holiness had sometimes been misunderstood as distance, and how infidelity is cast, becoming a normal thing even among believers, pastors, and pastors' wives. Men and women nodded slowly as though long held truths were finally being named aloud as various sensitive matters were being trashed. Practically, it was a tender moment yet very confrontational. While the married couples remained in the main auditorium with Apostle Unamdi and Chizaram, the singles and those in courting relationships were ushered into a separate hall. The atmosphere there was lighter but no less intentional. Laughter came easily, there was curiosity in the air, and a quiet hunger too. The kind that longs not just for marriage but for clarity, as Shalom and Uchenna sat at the front. From the beginning, it was clear who carried the flow in the relationship talk. Shalom. Shalom spoke freely, graceful, articulate, warm. She shared stories of learning patience, of unlearning assumption, of choosing communication over silent expectation. She spoke about seasons when love had to be practiced intentionally, not emotionally, about growth, humility, and choosing peace without losing oneself, and allowing God work on one's character before venturing into marriage, while Uchenna sat beside her relaxed. He nodded often and smiled when she said something funny, then occasionally added a sentence or two, mostly affirming with what his wife had said. It was obvious that this was her space or area, and he was content to let her shine while he supported her. The singles leaned in, they laughed when she said things cracked them up, said things that cracked them up, took notes when she paused to drop important lesson. The hall was already warm with laughter when Shalom's tone changed. She had been teaching gently about communication expectation and the quiet dangers of emotional assumption. But then she paused, her fingers tightening slightly around the microphone. I want to be honest with you all this evening, and I pray that you'll learn a thing or two tonight, she said, and the room quieted. Uchenna shifted in his seat but said nothing. He already knew where she was going. Some years ago, Shalom continued, I was not an easy woman to be married to. A few nervous chuckles followed, but she didn't smile. I was stubborn, hot-tempered, quick to assume, and slow to listen. The air thickened as she spoke without drama, without embellishments, just truth. I disrespected my husband, starting from even when we were courting. Sometimes without realizing it, I suspected him often. I made very important decisions without telling him, and I thought I was being helpful, but I was breaking trust. The room was silent as she spoke, as everyone sat up straighter. Some exchanged glances, surprised that the Uchenna many of them feared and respected outside was being disrespected and not honored at home. I was so convinced I was right that I didn't notice I was destroying the very thing God gave me. Her voice wavered, but she continued. Our marriage was ordained of God. I heard God. He also heard, and we were so convinced that we were meant to be. But ordination does not remove responsibility, she said, and it sank deeply as people nodded slowly, including Ucheda, who watched her. Then she said it. My husband ran away. A collective gasp rippled through the room in disbelief. Yeah, I never knew how terrible my character was and how badly I had ruined my beautiful marriage. until I woke up one morning to find out he was gone. He traveled out of the country and left no trace, no communication. The ones hung heavy. I didn't blame him, she added. He was tired and I had pushed him there. Her eyes glistened. That season did not just almost ruin my marriage, it almost ruined me. She inhaled deeply. But God, she continued while the room leaned in, God confronted me, not gently, thoroughly. She spoke of her repentance, of counseling, of broken pride, and of learning to submit, not as weakness but as wisdom. She talked about the importance of allowing God to reshape one's character even before marriage, and not just about praying for marriage because prayer might bring the marriage, but bad character can ruin it. I didn't become sweet overnight, she said. I became willing first, willing to let God work on me and reshape me. And it was even more painful because it came thoroughly. Tears streamed down some cheeks now, hers and others. You know, adult circumcision is more painful. I learned the hard way, but God did the rest. Sorry. Okay, so the room did not clap. They sat in reverent silence as she paused to comport herself. Then Uchenna reached for the microphone. He didn't rush. He looked at her for a long moment, long enough for history to pass silently before them. Thank you, he said softly, for telling the truth so powerfully. He told her, patting her on the shoulder, then turned to the audience. You see, most people only celebrate outcome, but we've lived the process, he said. Like she rightly said, there was a time when this beautiful woman you are seeing here with me was not easy to love. He continued and Shalom bowed her head slightly. But let me tell you something, he said, his voice firm now. Transformation has taken place and it is more powerful than perfection. The room said, today I can stand here boldly and say that this woman gives me no trouble at all. In fact, if I thought there's any trouble in our marriage now, it's me. But in a good way. I'm a sweet trouble, he said with a grin, and Shalom laughed through tears, shaking her head. Aww, the noise doubled as Singles owned in admiration. She's the sweetest soul I know presently. Listen, it's not because she was born that way, but because she allowed God to change her. He said, then turned to her again. Favorite, you don't even know how much you've changed. You are kind now in ways that heals. You are gentle. You respect me, not out of fear but understanding. You now choose peace even when you could choose pride and violence. Uchenna was talking and Shalom's face burned red with blush. Look, I value you with everything in me, he said plainly. I respect you and I honor the work God has done in you. He faced the singles again and said, so if you are here thinking that marriage is about finding someone perfect, forget it. Find someone who is willing and become willing yourself. The word Uchenna leaned in without drama and without warning. Uchenna leaned in and kissed Shalom deeply. The kiss was not hurried, deep, affectionate, and assured. The hall exploded with screams, cheers, and standing ovation. Shalom froze for half a second, then melted into the moment, blushing like a new bride, laughing as she pulled back, covering her face amid the noise. She looked like the luckiest person in the room. She laughed, overwhelmed, covering her face, blushing like a bride who had just been chosen again in front of everyone. This is beautiful. That's the truth. Choose someone that is willing in every area, and you also be willing. I would have loved to say more, but I'm sorry I have to cut this short. Sorry, before my data will disappoint me.